A long time ago, powerful gods enjoyed playing games. The gods invented various games, but they especially enjoyed playing with dolls. To do this, they built a special universe, a real theater. There were their own producers and directors, screenwriters and composers. There were actors who played good and bad guys, and of course the audience. And the main goal of these entertaining games was to gain experience. Caring for the dolls, the gods paid them a lot of attention. They endowed them with various abilities and competed in the skill of controlling their toys. The gods increasingly complicated the games. The excitement prompted some gods to disregard the rules, leading to confusion and chaos. Over time, the gods became true masters in manipulating the dolls and fully merged with their own creations. Having settled within bodies, the gods gradually forgot about their divine abilities. They forgot that they could independently generate any energy. They began to extract it from the depths of the once created planets. They also forgot that any game should be completed as soon as the goal is achieved. But since no one remembered the goal of the game either, it all began to take on an uncontrollable nature. The originally harmonious theatrical building with cosmic mysteries gradually transformed into a marketplace where everyone tried to swindle each other. The fact is that initially, the gods did not foresee certain consequences. The gods were infinitely powerful, but unfortunately, they were also infinitely foolish. They did not yet have enough experience. They created a lot of things, but completely neglected to clean up after themselves, so that everything could be dismantled. They simply did not think about it. It never occurred to them that along with creating the atomic bomb, it would be good to consider how to deal with the consequences of nuclear explosions. It all ended sadly. In an unrestrained race to improve the service of their own toys, the gods destroyed civilization and found themselves divided into many independent entities. Some gods, however, woke up from the delusion. Unlike others, they did not break the original rules of the game. Therefore, being in a better state, the gods were able to make use of the experience they had gained. Over time, they created their own culture and embarked on the path of evolutionary ascent. Even now, they are being attempted to be divided by visiting artists who have chosen the role of eternally wandering parasites. But now the gods know that true power is only possible through the preservation of their own integrity. Thus, they found themselves on a small planet, where on the path to healing, they play a difficult game that someone once called life.
Inspired by the fact that so many people have come together wanting to change their lives for the better. I feel a great happiness from this.
We communicate, receive information, and when we see that the theory is applied elsewhere, we understand that this is real knowledge worth applying.
I came to get acquainted with the medical culture to learn about the traditions of our ancestors, about our Slavic miners, connection with our ancestors, connection with our gods, appeal. When a person receives a spiritual impulse, they gain some spiritual experience. If this is a true experience, it does not end. It only grows. We want to pass this experience on to these little, wonderful Russians, so that they prosper and our entire country prospers.
predict outcomes accurately. Similarly, practical knowledge, such as skills or techniques, is verified by its effectiveness in achieving desired results. Thus, the usefulness of knowledge acts as a measure of its truth and reliability. Does it lead to greater happiness? Does it enhance abilities? Can a person achieve their goals better with its help? Let's try to answer these questions without resorting to the help of mutilated modern dictionaries and dive into the vast depths of the ancient Russian language, gifted to us by wise ancestors. The Russian language is a unique decoder of all elements of the universe. It generates all existing images and meanings. It can be simplified, transformed, distorted, or banned, but it cannot be destroyed. The Vedas are written in this language. The genetic codes of the race are written in this language. Turning to the roots of the Russian language means restoring the divine abilities of a person.
The transmission of an image is quite a complex process. We do this unconsciously, and we never think about it. But how it reaches another person is also often not a subject of our thoughts or any kind of assessment. We just speak. The literary work that contains Pushkin's fairy tales actually seems to hold the most ancient knowledge in a coded form. The fairy tales are structured according to a certain law, which perhaps cannot even be evaluated. In such a way they possess completeness, they possess wholeness. Fairy tale images, of course, reflect not only life, but also represent certain laws of life and the cyclicities in the world. One can say that there are periods in life that repeat multiple times. That is, if we consider life as a game, we can see that the same events sometimes occur on the same stage with some periodicity.
No person is happy goalless. No person can be happy without belief in their ability to achieve that goal. There are many different goals. Sometimes a person simply eats and is happy, or they build a house, or help a neighbor. This is obvious. When a person achieves a goal, they are happy. But what does happiness mean, and what goal is being referred to? Hello, may I ask you a question? What does happiness mean to you? Living in such a beautiful city, why not? Happiness is success. Happiness, peace, tranquility in life, and general prosperity. Hello, may I ask you a question? What is happiness for you? It's complicated. A loved one nearby. Complete harmony, apparently, of the inner self, with oneself, with the world. What is happiness?
Happiness, it's when you are not burdened by other problems, when your loved one is always by your side.
Great. And how do you interpret the very word happiness?
I just interpreted it.
To be continued.
Thank you.
Happiness when your love is nearby.
Happiness. Yes, I don't know. Well, maybe, perhaps, give me a hint.
I don't know, Jana.
Happiness is when you are healthy, when your family is healthy, when your children are healthy.
But perhaps there is no better. Happiness for me is also what it is for the hero. The film, Let's Live Until Monday, is when you are understood.
Great. And how do you interpret the word happiness in Russian? Not.
I don't know, well, a feeling of some kind of self-sufficiency, probably. That is, the moment when you need nothing. You don't need to strive for anything, and there is complete satisfaction.
Then there is well-being in the family, prosperity, love. For me, this is specific.
What is happiness for you? Attention, family, friends, loved ones around.
Happiness is when there is a lot of money in your pocket. Happiness is everything. It is love. It is understanding. It is all the beauty that surrounds us.
What happiness means to you?
For me, happiness I can tell a lot. For me, happiness is when a loved one is nearby. That's one. For me, happiness is when there is a trusting relationship between a parent and a son. Very trusting. That's two. For me, happiness is when almost everything works out in life. That's three. And happiness is an inexplicable, simply inexplicable thing.
Happiness, or empathy, it is an action when separate parts come together in the right way. And the result of this action is the goal, wholeness. The goal is all our, where all means this, our, means everything. Absolute wholeness is God, that is everything. The goal is integrity. It is a state, and happiness is the action towards achieving integrity. In Russian Vedic culture, this is a unified, whole kin, consisting of many generations of ancestors and descendants and nature. This is neither polytheism nor monotheism. It is the unity of the multitude. This goal is integrity, and it is the essence of the Slavic Aryan worldview.
At the head of everything for us, many ask, who is your main God? I say it is both God and structure at the same time. At the head for us is kin. Kin is family. And from here everything continues. For the Greeks, gods are separate, family is separate, nature is separate. But for us, everything is interconnected. That is closer cooperation. Therefore, many come and say, well, you have a lot of gods, polytheism. I say you are mistaken. Are you saying that you have monotheism, belief in one God? I say you are mistaken. Then what do you have? I say we have rhodotheism. It's unclear. I say each of us, we can say, was born by kin, right? But father, mother, grandfathers, great-grandfathers, there are many. So it results in multitude in unity, unity in multitude. And this is rhodotheism. It reflects natural properties. Yes, this is rhodotheism. So at the core is kin. At the core is family, the transmission of knowledge, wisdom from generation to generation, but at the same time, everything in nature. It unites into one and whole.
Here you have the Russian national idea, help in healing. Russes has always brought peoples together, not for colonial parasitism, but for cooperation on the principles of community, where each subject was whole and self-sufficient, and ready to lend a shoulder in times of trouble. This is embedded in the deep memory of our united people. That is why Slavs could never be defeated by force.
I am not a supporter of the state. You could say I am an opponent of the state, because the state implies the presence of a sovereign. That is why we currently have no state, because there is no sovereign. Clear, right? I am not a supporter of the empire. An empire is also a usurpation of some kind of power. I am a supporter of the communal tribal state. That is, how does it differ? There will be abundance in the tribe. There will be abundance in the people. There will be abundance in the people. There will be abundance in the state. There will be abundance in the state. The state will be invincible, and no dark force or enemy army will be able to defeat it. That is how it was with the worshipper.
Achieving a goal is first of all, confidently, without a shadow of doubt, to create an ideal, complete image. Under this condition, the image will necessarily manifest in the obvious, that is, in the physical world. It's like winning a battle without starting the battle. After all, the obvious world around us is merely a projection of our thoughts. And all the happiness that we will ever be able to find is within us.
I see proper education as ensuring the integrity of data transmission. The first factor is accuracy in defining words, accuracy in conveying them. The second is a large vocabulary, that is, the ability to know and use your experience, your universal knowledge, so as not to reach into your pocket for a word, but simply, to give it as clearly as the situation requires, that is, precisely in the terms that are of interest to this interlocutor, whether in fairy tale words for some, jargon for others, or some technical language. We have a wonderful language with more than 5 million words that we can name, understand, convey to others, and use. And the third part is the behavior itself, the mood. The intention when conveying this, that is, if we are, for example, emotionally in a good mood and feel confident, we will undoubtedly convey this not only through sounds or letters, but also through the transmission of emotional tone or energetic mood, some melody, some harmony. So in fact, proper education is achieving not just sufficiency, following certain rules or norms, it is ensuring harmony in all perceptions, the fullness of harmony, which simultaneously is also perhaps like any perfect product, possesses beauty, aesthetic beauty. In my opinion, this is proper education, wholeness, integrity. Precision, beauty, is strength.
Our task is to restore our natural abilities, in order to restore our natural abilities. And for this, it is necessary to have an understanding of the abilities of our lineage. In other words, before tuning the piano, it's good to know how the piano sounds when it is in tune. Abilities are the mastery of methods. Capable means armed with a method. The logic of a person in a healthy state is impeccable. It far surpasses the most advanced computer. The whole problem is that in order to solve any task, we often load false information into our minds, so that we do not step on the same rake twice. Our ancestors wisely left us the commandment to use common sense.
And what is common sense? It's really cool. What is common sense and how does it differ? A person needs to define the whale. That is, the first criterion is the opinion of a competent person on the matter. The opinion of a competent person. So if you want to learn something, you need to find a person who really understands the issue and turn to them for clarification on how you can achieve it. If we promise, then of course you must urgently serve. And from the Spirit, and there is one who knows what he is talking about on the right. The second example is the opinion of our ancestors. That is, where can we find out? The opinion of our it is contained in the Sobeds. It is contained in the commandments of our gods, our ancestors. It is contained in the fasts of Pavel Volga. It is contained in our fairy tales, in the literary literature, which has been investigated all over the world. That is, this is the opinion of our ancestors. We need to find out what our people have commanded on this issue. And the third criterion of truth is personal experience. Without it, you cannot draw conclusions either. So in general, as Hoppo says, I won't believe until there is balance. This is how we should act. That is, only by convincing oneself that this is indeed the case can all three criteria be brought to. It can be brought to a common denominator when all three criteria are such that we can somehow not doubt, or it may not be so, and we can also doubt. However, if we rely on any one of these criteria, even if named, then the degree of our error is likely. But using these three criteria will allow us to never be wrong in anything. It guarantees us up to 1% that we will never be wrong in anything. It is only necessary to diligently bring all three criteria to a common denominator. This is what is called a healthy expert.
To wield a sword or use a computer, one must first learn how to do it. This path can be long or short and depends on abilities. But it's unlikely that anyone would think of the idea of learning to learn first. And yet this is the first and basic step in any learning. And since educational institutions do not teach how to learn, let us turn again to the experience of our great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers. How to learn to learn. In fact, it is very simple. You need to know and use a couple of rules. The first, is to apply common sense, that is, to gain your own experience by referring to the primary source. And now the second. Someone from ancient times said, miracles do not contradict the laws of nature. They only contradict our understanding of these laws. Any object or phenomenon consists of parts. It can be difficult to put many parts together at once. You shouldn't rush up the stairs by skipping 3-4 steps if you haven't learned to walk yet. But if you overcome one step without unnecessary tension, and then the others in the same way, then the entire staircase will be traversed without unnecessary tension. You just need to distribute the steps so that they are accessible to the learner, and not move on to the next step without fully mastering the previous one. Then all the parts will come together happily, and you will easily achieve your goal. This is a well-known basic principle called gradualness, but we usually bypass this principle, cut corners, and take risks on the turns. To become happy, you need to correctly assemble the known parts on the way to a well-known goal. Therefore, you must first envision yourself as the embodiment of that goal. That is, something in a whole ideal form. And only after you have created this image can you begin to manifest it in the explicit, that is, the material world, with full responsibility, for all existence is in the heavens. In reality, it manifests only as coexistence, indeed a reflection. The manifest world or physical universe can be compared to a mirror. What you show it, you will see. Subtitles by Dimatorzok. If you show lies, you will see lies. You cannot deceive yourself. Somewhere deep down in your soul, you will always know that you have lied. For, originally, you are God.
Pounding with a pitchfork on the water to write, and Bakushka, and historians have distorted all this. But in fact, what is water in a mortar pounding this type? Removed water from blue sacred springs. That is somewhere in the geological zones were poured into one mortar with a pestle began to push. This is better, that is to do, and will be destructured if you know stagnant water in. And the molecules are connected in a chain. It is very difficult to penetrate through the cell membrane. Therefore it brings us as if this is little pulse but scarlet water, cold boiling water. Their molecules are short, that is they break up, and the cell membrane penetrates into space. Toxins are washed out, that is useful water. So, if you grind this water at waterfalls, somewhere at the thresholds, or if you crush it in a mortar, the molecules are physically destroyed. That is, they become short fragments. In other words, the water becomes destructured, using modern terminology. And to write with forks, this is precisely what to do with forks. Tridents in this eagle in the attack. He drew a ruble. You have probably heard theories about torsion fields, that water remembers all information. And he infused information about benevolence so that it would benefit all people, for health and the acceleration of evolution. In other words, he programmed this water. And it is worth taking this water. Pouring a cup, filling a barrel, the ordinary, water, has rewritten all the information, and he supplied such water to each of the 7. With such food we cooked, washed the floors, did laundry, bathed, and watered. Because from this barrel, the information was also rewritten into another soil. And this is how he supplied each family with such water. And when a child was born, he noted the exact time because he mastered the science of light reading. And he found, you have heard about the horoscope of the Trojans, when each person has their own plant. So he didn't just choose a breed, some tree, but selected a specific tree with the same rhythms as that child. And he approached this child, this tree, and performed a special ritual to direct the power of this tree as a protective charm for this child. But in ancient herbals, it is written that the plant should be gathered when the flower appears. In modern herbals, it is written that the plant should be gathered during flowering. These are 2 big differences. Color and flowering are different. Color, for example, is like the color of a fern. The fern does not have a flower, it has the color of a fern. That is, it is an electrobioluminescent glow, as scientists call it. That is, it is a glow prana, such energy. So this color appears only for a few hours a year in any plant, but a flower can last for several months. Our botanists worked with our ancestors who composed our herbs. That is, it is necessary to take the strength, the prana of this plant. And so,
Just as the wolf approached this plant when it was at its strongest, it was a few hours of water. A ritual was conducted to direct this power, specifically to this child, that is, it was programmed. Yes, I cut down this tree and made such wooden bowls, well, like pen tips, and then after a certain time, I started to chop them, that is, to drink from the bowls. And where are the blanks for cups, spoons, the circle, handles for tools, handles for weapons, that is, everything that touched daily life, and these killed animals were given to the father, and he would provide light for his child. This was only for him, of course, like both, or like talismans. They also helped evolution. This was such a duty. Water would step in, and silver in water, and to eat. I think there is some kind of popular wave of success among these people who are engaged in this, not only passionately but also very effectively. This can bring completely unexpected results in the form of a leap in consciousness, a change in mindset, and a leap for humanity to a different perception of the world. That is, in fact, this has happened very quickly in human history at times. Revolutionary changes, they are expected, they are desirable, and they can happen quite soon. One can even see how this will happen. Subtitles by Dimitri. When you take the time to carefully examine and study what was once there, you might find that there is a wealth of information and insights to be discovered. Looking closely and analyzing the details to uncover the hidden stories and meanings. This is an exploration and understanding of the human just maybe it is a journey of discovery that allows you to connect with the origins and beginnings of what you are examining. Through this careful and thoughtful examination, you can gain a deeper appreciation and understanding of the subject matter, realizing that the starting point is not just a moment in time, but a foundation for everything that follows. This exploration can lead to new insights and perspectives, enriching your knowledge and appreciation of the topic at hand. The moment from which it is worth developing further, that is to return to the beginning of this circle, using all the power of science, all the power of one's experience, to bring this first language to the form it once had, which was undoubtedly harmonious and complete.
have faith. Do you know the etymology of the word faith?
We know.
This is the knowledge of the wound, the original trace. That is, the wound was revered by our ancestors as the color of nuclear thermonuclear reactions. That is, they revered Gary Presidor. They revered electric light like Peruns revered the fiery like fire oxidation. That is why we, the non-believers, were called sun worshippers. Fire worshippers, those who did not understand what faith is. If they are unable to do this, they are given a projection of our faith. This projection is called religion. That is, religion translates to a repeated social formation or repeated sacred nourishment. But repeated after what? After our faith? Do you understand? Faith is one. Can there be two faiths? Faith, as we have already discussed, is the knowledge of Ra, the original light. Can there be two faiths? No way. A person either knows what Ra is or does not know.
In modern Russian, the word faith is written and read with the letter E. In the Ukrainian language, we know this word as vera. What is the difference? Before the artificial division of Russians into Great Russians, White Russians, and Little Russians, that is, Ukrainians, this word was written with the letter Yat, vera. The letter Yat was pronounced with a double diphthong sound, i.e., and signified the unbreakable connection between the earthly and the heavenly, or cause and effect. Its image corresponded to the knowledge of Ra, light, and wisdom. The letter Yat was removed from the alphabet, and the connection between the earthly and the heavenly disappeared. And without this connection, the meaning of the word was reduced to a primitive dictionary definition: strong conviction, deep confidence. And one more thing, to know means to know the sign, the meaning. And to know is not just to know. It also means to have the ability to convey wisdom in a whole, untainted form, that is, in an image. Modern science calls such abilities telepathic. People with such abilities are called prophets.
The opinion that there are no prophets in our homeland, or in one's own homeland, as it is said, is not true. In fact, there have been a huge number of prophets in the history of Russia and our peoples. One can look, for example, at the role of Leo Tolstoy, the most renowned thinker, writer, scientist, and educator who left a colossal mark in linguistics, literature, culture, and pedagogy. It took him 17 years of work to create the book New Alphabet. It was published in 1875 and was successfully used for teaching, particularly peasant children. It contained techniques that are still not fully understood or utilized. Why this is not applied is already a political question. It is little known that Leo Tolstoy was to be placed in a political prison in Suzdal at the Spaso-Efimiev monastery. As early as 1884, a cell in a strict prison was already prepared, from which, in fact, no one had ever come out alive. An icon had already been painted, which is also kept in the Vladimir Suzdal Museum. The icon Leo Tolstoy burns in hell. That is, being in conditions of the harshest repression, in particular, dissatisfaction with the church regarding Leo Tolstoy's activities. These were the reasons for the silence about his achievements and the results of his activities, in particular, his teaching.
For a student to learn well, he must be willing to learn. For him to be willing to learn, the teaching should be clear and engaging, and his emotional strengths must be in the most favorable conditions, so that there are no new unfamiliar subjects and faces where he studies, so that the student is not ashamed of the teacher or his peers. Avoid unclear Russian words, words that do not correspond to the concept or have two meanings, and especially foreign words. so that the student does not fear punishment for poor learning, that is, for misunderstanding. The human mind can only function when it is not suppressed by external influences.
He'll go to the board and present his idea. He'll definitely go to the board. Boris Papa!
In order to be aware of the benefits brought, one must possess one quality. This quality also complements all teaching arts and preparations, for with this quality, a teacher can easily acquire the knowledge that is lacking. If a teacher did not feel a moment of boredom during a 3-hour lesson, he possesses this quality. This quality is love. Leo Tolstoy wrote these simple and clear tips for teachers in the last century. Their great wisdom is evident. Following these simple guidelines from Tolstoy's alphabet will prepare educators more than 5 courses of modern pedagogical training. But we were methodically instilled with the idiotic notion that there are no prophets in one's own homeland. While Western authorities from all over Europe came to Yasnaya Polyana for consultations with Tolstoy, the local Christian church condemned him to anathema for daring to have his own views on life, orthodoxy, and the order of the world. The church was creating its own history.
In general, the term history itself, do you know the etymology? Well, what am I telling you? From the bark of the Torah and the Yugi Mason translation into Russian, then the Old Testament is also here. The supporters of the Old Testament tradition are called, and the chair of the river from the monks are spoons. All this is magical words. That is, history has always written freedom to the existing government. And here it has always been called blasphemy. So, blasphemy is a storyteller. A blasphemer is a narrator. And blasphemous speech is telling about our history, what actually happened. Therefore, Christians say it's blasphemy to speak of what was before Christ. This is blasphemy. Yes, blasphemy is wonderful, but history is vile. So these small words themselves, this is the Russian language. Look at the urgency, what each word means. Everything will stop in its place.
Recently, it is rare for a television program to go without various kinds of priests, exotic healers, fortune tellers, cult experts, and lawyers. This gentleman's set travels from channel to channel discussing European values, American patriotism, the basest human passions, and never the great diversity of Russian traditions and culture. Instead, biblical values are presented daily as our localized product, without which we are drunks and pagans, cannibals. Is this ignorance, or is it still betrayal?
Here, about the Matrix. Titanic, The Passion of the Christ, Brother. So let me explain. These 2 of my books are aimed at youth, about commissionership in cinema. These books may not need to be read by Orthodox people, but every Orthodox grandmother should have them in her home, so that during the period when your grandson reaches a difficult transitional age, he is no longer escorted to the church. And he is no longer escorted to the church. Not escorted to the church as at the age of 5. Slip these books under his pillow. Well, understand, Petruka, you can be modern, young, and still be Orthodox, without waiting for retirement age to go to the temple. Here, read about Orthodox rockers, about Orthodox cinema, and so on.
Orthodox rockers are probably cool, and the Orthodox temple is a worthy place. But the popular church polemicist in the media, Andrei Kuraev, is misleading his flock. He uses the concept substitution that has become traditional for the Christian church. Orthodoxy and Christianity are completely different worldviews. Orthodoxy is the original cultural system of the world order of slaves and Aryans, based on the ancestral continuity of generations over millions of years. Orthodoxy is not a religion. It is faith, the knowledge of the source. is the reason. It is the world of gods and ancestors who created the people in their image. Slava is respect, acceptance, and glorification by the people of the life principles of their ancestors. Ayav is the visible world in which the people gain experience and, according to the guidance of their ancestors, make an evolutionary ascent to the world of Prav, enriching it with their experience. It is a multidimensional cultural system created by the pantheon of Russian gods. And Christianity is merely a religion created by Jews, a reconstruction based on the works of Moses and the teachings of Christ, who was revealed to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Jesus was sent to the Jews to tell them about human values. They took advantage of this divine opportunity according to their own values. They crucified him and then long persecuted his followers. And then, practically Saul, i.e., the Apostle Paul, merged Jesus with Moses, created a new brand, and, to put it in modern terms, charged a religious franchise across the planet. Today, hundreds of Christian sects of various profiles continue to mutate to serve the economic interests of hidden players. A successful enterprise. But what does orthodoxy have to do with it? Or is our national idea about serving foreigners? By calling Christianity orthodoxy, we unconsciously agree to a monstrous substitution and sever the informational connection with our native gods.
This was done very vividly, especially in the Middle Ages. That is, the introduction of printing was motivated not just by the development of civilization or providing these books. It had a completely opposite process, hidden from consciousness, from the awareness of this. Firstly, church books were published. Thus the previous books were easily distinguishable as handwritten. And those who introduced, say, the Catholic faith in Europe and other countries of the world, thus made other knowledge, other books, noticeable, and they were subject to destruction. That is, the same thing happened to us, for example, in 1918, when good old grandfather Lenin, with his decree at the very peak of the Civil War and devastation, suddenly issued a decree on the reform of the alphabet. And this was carried out, seemingly, at the very time when there was nothing else to do. Suddenly, a reform is produced. Again, this was done in order to destroy the previous layer of culture, history, and knowledge, and to implant precisely the proletarian or masked proletarian worldview and knowledge. That is, this is ideology in politics.
Christian priests gradually, along with our calendar, displaced Slavic Aryan holidays and replaced them with their religious procedures. For this reason, the people stopped celebrating their New Year on September 21st and now get drunk on January 1st for the New Year, that is, on the day of the circumcision of the 8-day-old boy Jesus. Well, a very important activity for the Slavs. By the way, in Russes, the word pop was always used as an insult, as this abbreviation is interpreted as the dust of the fathers, betrayed.
Last year, children attended the elective course on the basics of orthodoxy voluntarily. This year, the teacher warns that the subject is mandatory and the grade will go on the certificate. Many students, like their parents, refuse to share their attitude towards the new subject, saying, "We still have to study here." If orthodoxy has been declared a mandatory subject, it will have to be studied as diligently as mathematics and Russian. Communist Demchenko took on the study of school textbooks on orthodoxy. The deputy concluded that in the materials from grades 2 to 11, Orthodox religion is imposed on children under the guise of history and culture.
It is necessary to uphold constitutional rights. What is the statement of the governor of our region? The lesson should begin with a prayer.
Yes, sorry, pray. Why is my child obliged to pray at your command?
We do not impose religion. We simply perhaps provide the knowledge that parents may be missing a little bit somewhere.
Why did local authorities not conduct a public opinion poll? Why is Orthodox culture planned to be taught at the expense of reducing hours for main subjects of the school curriculum? With these questions, several deputies of the Regional Duma will appeal to the prosecutor's office and court. The Regional Prosecutor's Office has already received the first complaint from a former teacher. He believes that mandatory study of orthodoxy in school contradicts the Constitution and puts a cross on secular education.
If not orthodox culture is taught, but religion or the law of God is taught, then the prosecutor's office will take appropriate prosecutorial measures.
You have observed yet another classic substitution of concepts. For centuries, Russian people have remembered that they are Orthodox. The very word orthodoxy comes from the words to glorify, the truth, meaning Russian gods, not Christ, Moses, or Job. Christian priests have stolen the term orthodoxy and use it like a wolf in sheep's clothing. A similar substitution has occurred with the term communism, which is now hated by the majority of the population, having partaken in democracy. It is worth noting that Jesus himself has a rather distant relationship with Christianity. His true followers were exterminated just like our magi, aristocrats, and best warriors. But there is no such thing as second freshness sturgeon. It is either fresh or rotten.
In the very beginning was the Word, and indeed truly the Word was with God.
Friend, we have a big request for you. Please do not continue. No. The neighborhood with the galaxy Kinzaza is our misfortune. They are consumed by passions.
Vicious.
And the continuation of life in the form of a plant is a blessing for them.
And for everyone.
We call them to ask, what's a blessing or not?
Let's not waste time unnecessarily. You are beings with anti-tentura, and therefore I am obliged to move you to the original point of departure, or return you in time to the moment when you can decide your own fate. Choose. Pardon, I didn't understand. To what time? The past.
To be continued, and the story, the past.
To start, a little warm-up. I will show a card, and you name the suit. I will reveal everything faster, and you try to keep up. All right. Diamond, club, spade, heart, diamond, spade, dam. Spade, A, diamond, Petya, dad, heart, spade, heart, diamond, club, art, spade, diamond, club, spade, art, club, speed, art. Did it really work? No, it absolutely did not indeed.
Few people succeed. Black worms, red spades. But this is a deception. Experience has taught you to think that all hearts are red and all spades are black. Their shapes are similar, and it is easier for the brain to interpret them based on past experience rather than the idea that they may differ. We see what we expect to see, not necessarily the truth. Children do not play their cards, easily passing this test. It makes you think involuntarily. We can see, hear, and feel other things. But if you repeat the test, you will succeed. Knowing that there are black worms and red spades, you can distinguish them. Our bridge is like a system of national highways. It is always easier to drive from one well-known place to another. But those that are in between, as if to the side, they exist, but most just fly by. Indeed, they fly past. A good trick, but there are no games with black worms and red spades. How do you know?
Attention. The most valuable product in our universe for that which is given attention continues to exist. The ability to manage someone else's attention leads to profit. Today, attention in our social organism is managed by players who own the media. There is open management There is hidden and therefore oppressive. The more we learn to manage our attention independently, applying common sense, the sooner we will have the opportunity to take control of our lives.
And now we write and draw the truly accurate and correct model of the Earth's structure. The flat Earth rests on 3 elephants, which stand on a turtle, and the turtle swims in the limitless ocean. They, like the Earth, are round. Don't interrupt, just write. The flat Earth exists. The essence is a flat judgment of a person who, after 2-dimensional categories of yes or no, receives knowledge from one of the 3 elephants drawn, symbolizing 3 worlds, 3 points, 3 worldviews, materialism, idealism, and transcendentalism, or however you may call it, mysticism. The basis of materialism is matter. The basis of idealism is idea, thought. The basis of transcendentalism is materialized idea, that is word. But these elephants receive knowledge about the turtle, and the turtle has a worldview and Judaism. It draws information from the ocean of limitless knowledge and absolute truth. And the basis is energy. So what is matter? It is densely concentrated energy in its various manifestations. What is thought? It is an energetic informational structure. What is a word? It is an energetic vibration.
We have an internal translator, which translates verbal, acoustic, speech, and written signals into a language of images that belong more to the mind than to the intellect. That is, I believe that the intellect operates with symbols, while the mind operates with images.
It is believed that mathematics is the mother of sciences. This statement is quite true, but only in the realm of intellect. In the realm of the mind, the image reigns. Our ancestors, the Koritzians, Darians, Russians, and Sviatoroses, also had figurative arithmetic, which made it understandable.
We will say mathematics begins in part 4 of the course. Moose then seminary before that. Horian arithmetic is studied. Well, let's say several principles of Horian multiplication. I always ask people the question 3G to 7 is how much. For some reason everyone answers 21 Yagra, then 3 by 7 multiplication. By. That is on the surface, on the plane. This is 2-dimensional multiplication. Multiplication. Wait, this is already 3-dimensional. And multiplication, U volume, is temporary. Besides this, there are structured types of multiplication. Even multiplication prismatic pyramidal triad, that is, they differ yet not allow the expression here exactly. Wait, 9, 729. This means 9 structures in a row, 9 rows, and 9 in height. So it's like in a cube. Raising to a power, yes, but our ancestors did not use such exponential forms. They had a simplified version. Exactly 9,629 can be represented as 9 times 9 times 9. This simplifies the perception of the world. Of course, this means a person does not get fixated, so to speak, on numbers. They perceive 6 as images. And notice, our ancestors did not say 10 or 12. They said 27 planets revolve around the sun. 3.9 lands. And where did this come from? 3.9 lands. But, for example, in the fairy tales, Nastya goes beyond 3.9 lands to the 30th kingdom, right? Or how the kingdom was referred to earlier, that was introduced later, in the 30th hall. Many refer to 30 as 30. I always say, if there's a 10 lying down and 3 rubles placed on top, will it be 30? 3 times 10. And where did it go? To the 13th hall. We have 16, not 12 signs along the diagonal, but 16 halls. And note, the 13th hall is the hall of the Philistines. And it went, where? To the 3.9 distant lands. For its clear falcon. The distant land is over 518 billion versts. And here we need 27. The question is, to which galaxy did it hitchhike?
You are talking about the planets. Me.
Well, tell me the number of your galaxy in the spiral.
In the spiral?
Yes. Do you know where Earth is? It's where planets like Phanereus, Jupiter, and others revolve. Vladimir Nikolaevich.
The Big Dipper.
The question of uniting languages and creating some kind of universally understood, commonly accepted language has been raised for many centuries. The tree of languages has branched out significantly and has diverged from its roots. Therefore, the later languages, particularly European languages, are no longer figurative languages. Unlike the Slavic languages such as Russian, Ukrainian, Belarusian, and others which have retained their imagery, therefore it is necessary to combine figurative languages with symbolic languages. It is currently not possible. This is not even a matter of some national pride. It is a matter of economic expansion that is being carried out in all directions. The thought that this can be done in any other way, except based on English vocabulary, is not allowed. And this is a dead-end path. It is impossible to build a language that is entirely composed of symbols, of fragments, remnants of other languages. I am talking about the English language. For me, as a specialist, this is a completely confusing concept. Therefore, my suggestion is to use those languages that have retained imagery, which have strayed less from the trunk, from the tree of knowledge, and to try this direction. Based on the publications that are now appearing about the books, it can be assumed that this process is underway. It is indeed progressing in this popular guerrilla way, and there is an expectation that this will come to fruition.
Slavs and Aryans have revered their gods for billions of years. They have never knelt before them, never bowed their backs in servitude, and have never kissed the hands of priests. They have always felt a natural kinship with them, as they are strongly connected by a common lineage. The ancestors left us, their descendants, a great value, the language of faith, wisdom, known as the Asir. A word is not just a symbol assigned by agreement. The word itself is a divine act of creation. All spaces are creative. In order for the entire Slavic Aryan world to regain its spiritual strength, it is necessary to cleanse its sacred foundation, the Russian word, from injustice. This is exactly how true, proper education begins. Continue next.